Hello and happy Thursday. I'm Monica May. Welcome to One Take Live. As we come up on the last Thursday of Women's History Month, I wanted to introduce to some and just present to others, like they would say, from a podium of some kind of experience. One of my favorite people here in Orlando, Linda Landman Gonzalez, is one of the VPs for the Orlando Magic. She's the Vice President of Community Relations and Government Affairs and the President of the Orlando Magic Youth Foundation. But more importantly, for me, she was one of the few women, maybe the only woman, who responded to me when I returned here to Central Florida to work for a radio station. I was introducing myself to the community as the new community affairs director. So I was not looking for a job, and I made that very clear. And Linda invited me into her office. And since then, she's become my shiro. I've watched her from afar, and I don't even know that she knows that. So let's welcome Linda Landman Gonzalez. How are you this evening?
I am great. Thank you. This is such a pleasure and an honor. And thank you for those kind words. You're wonderful.
Listen, Linda, we bonded over some pretty orange color lipstick. And I'll just never forget how kind you were to me. And I thank you for that. I wanted to ask, the main question is, how have you maintained your seat at the table, so to speak? Because you've done marketing for Barnett Bank. You've always dealt within the public's eye. You've also been a part of Darden restaurants and now the Orlando Magic. You had some pretty high hitting jobs. How did you do that?
I don't know if I can really define how I did it other than always being curious, always being myself and authentic, and always appreciating whatever comes my way and making the most of it.
That you're saying that wherever I am, I'm going to do the job and just do it well. How did you get invited to did you just apply for the Darden job years ago? What did you do?
Well, that's an interesting story. I was working, as you know, at Barnett. And if you all remember, if you've been in Florida for a while, Nations Bank bought Barnett. And a lot of our jobs, mine specifically was Hispanic sales and marketing at the time, were moving up to Charlotte because Nations Bank was moving some of their operations out of Florida. And at the time, my boss was Yvonne Loggins Coleman.
Yeah.
And I received a call because at the time I was also the chair of the Hispanic Business Initiative Fund. A gentleman by the name of Sam Mathis called them and said, "Do you know someone who works in the space of Hispanic marketing and sales?" And they said yes. And this all happened within a week of being told that we, might not keep our jobs. He called me and asked me if I would come speak with them. And then Yvonne, I found out this years later, Yvonne called Sam, because I didn't say anything. She just had overheard it and said, "I don't know why you're calling Linda Landman Gonzalez, but all I can say to you is if you are interested in her, it would be I think she said would be the best decision you ever made," or something like that. And I went and worked with Sam in the diversity area at Darden, and I stayed there 9 years. So that goes back to relationships and always being yourself and always being the best yourself.
It's interesting. 2 points from there. Relationships, let's talk about how do we even start to build them. But I also want to talk about being your authentic self. How safe is that these days?
This month at the Magic, we've had quite a few guest women leaders, and we've had incredible panelists and conversation. And that is the question, is what does that mean to be yourself? And does your organization allow that? It's not easy. And it is, I would just say not dangerous, but it's risky. Mm-hmm. It's risky because I've heard many a time in my career, it's like, that's not how we do things, or that's now how things are done. And, you have to just, I guess you have to accommodate to that sometimes, as they say, acculturate,
Mm-hmm.
because the rules are the rules and the culture is the culture. But you also have to really be, give them the conviction that you have, that that doesn't always work for everyone's benefit. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had many a conversation with many a boss of mine, a manager or director or someone, that this is not how you keep your best people, and this is not how the organization grows, with not allowing authentic.
Hmm. And then when that happens and they trust your voice, that makes it a little bit easier for people who are working around you, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We all know how important it is to model behavior and how people are always watching, and
Mhm.
especially in our case, women, young women. Everyone is watching your pitfalls and your successes.
So true.
That's the teachings of how to just grow. But it changes everything when your leader and your organization allow authentic behavior and authentic voice.
you know and the level that brings you to, that's over a period of time. So teaching younger women to take their time to build relationships, do you point that out to people when you're maybe speaking to younger women who are in your organization now or in chambers that you're involved in?
Always. I always say, don't walk into a room, in the time when we used to have after hour events and people would meet to socialize. But I said, don't walk into a room to see how many cards you give away. If you only give away 2 cards, but listen to the person that gave you theirs and really learn about them, you will be better for it, and you will have made a connection. And the next time you see that person, or that if something comes up that you hear about that that person would benefit from, or
Mm,
vice versa, it becomes, I've had people come and say, hey, do you know anybody that does this or that would be good at this? And I'm like, you know what? I met someone, not they met me. I met someone who could do that or might be interested in doing that. And I have relationships that go back 30 years in this town.
so where are some other places that you've lived and worked, and what brought you to Orlando?
I am a New York City girl from Queens.
Can't you tell her accent?
Yeah, I know. My sister always says, how is it possible you haven't been in Queens for 40 years or so and you still have that New York accent? I don't know. It's there forever. Born in Astoria, Queens. I went to college in Mexico City. I wanted to be an anthropologist. Met my husband almost the first day of school, my now husband, and I stayed for 15 years, got married, had my children, and made a decision in the 80s that it might behoove us to come back to this country. The things were not going well economically and otherwise, and had an uncle who had retired in Inverness up in Citrus County.
Okay.
uh, and we came back, and it was very good for me. I went to Mexico as an immigrant and had to learn that culture, that language. And then I came back to the United States because I had gone at 17. So I came back as an adult and an immigrant to this country with a family who were Mexican. So it really was life changing, both of those situations.
And
And
you
got a job at Barnett up in Citrus County. That's how I started.
and you made it through. Now your degree was a business degree?
No, it was a degree in education. At the end, after meeting
Right.
my husband, yeah, I became a teacher. And in Mexico, the entire time, I was a history and geography teacher.
Did you teach it all here in the States?
No, I came back and said that was the toughest thing I've ever done in my life, teaching.
Mm.
So I think a lot of parents have realized just important teachers are this last year, and
Yeah, the
how much
pandemic did it. The pandemic
how
did it. Hmm.
it did. And so I came back and made a decision. My husband decided to open up a restaurant. We owned a restaurant, and I got a job at the bank so I could have benefits. And that's how it started.
You see? And then from there, okay. So We're talking with Linda Landman Gonzalez, and I told her tonight for the very first time, but she might have known this already. She actually is my shero because she responded to me, the first woman who responded to me when I first moved back here to Orlando. I was moving back to Orlando, and I was taking on a new position at a radio station, and I was letting the women that were holding key positions that I really wanted to get to know, that I really wanted to get to meet them. But I highlighted, this is not a job request. And Linda, what made you respond to me? Do you even remember that letter?
I remember you definitely. The letter that I received, I just love it when women reach out to other women when they're either arriving or coming back, and they just want to talk. As I said at the beginning of our conversation, I want to know people. I want to know you. And your letter was great. And then you walked in, and your personality and your great orange lipstick was so phenomenal that I think we spoke probably for much more than the time that we thought we would.
We did.
And I respond not only to women, also young men and men. I just want to get to know somebody who's here to do good and to get part of our community.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. With your position within the Orlando Magic, and also as president of the Youth Foundation there, that's a very strenuous job. How are you maintaining your balance throughout all of this, especially the pandemic?
I always say to women that there's not a life-work balance, it's a life. And you have to live it and you have to manage it like everything else. But you're not balancing, you're living. And you put your efforts where you need them to be. I always say men don't understand work-life balance. That's not something that they even think about because they don't work-life balance. They just live.
Mm-hmm.
And women need to learn how to just live their lives and manage it to be and do what they want to do.
What are some of the things that you do when you're away from your job for Linda? What are some self-care things? These are things that we've asked some women, throughout the month. What are some self-care things that you like to do?
I love to have pedicures. I love facials. I love relaxing and reading, and I love to travel. And this year has probably been the hardest year of my life when it comes to that part of how I disengage. And if I'm not traveling, I'm planning. And sometimes planning is just as great as traveling. And I have not done either this year. So I've tried to just take road trips. We've been through Florida on the car a lot. I went on Sunrail last week and we just took a ride on Sunrail. It was like a vacation. I felt like I was on a train going somewhere. It was wonderful.
You were going somewhere, huh?
I was going somewhere.
So now, what do you think would be considered your next role? Do you think you'll retire from the Orlando Magic? Do you want to do something else? What's your next step?
That's so interesting, Mana, because when we get to a certain age, we kind of start thinking about, so like, what do I do? And, you don't want to be here forever and not leave a space for the next generation of women coming up. So you say to yourself, am I content with just not doing that, right? Because this part of my life is fabulous. I love what I do, and I love the people I get to meet. But I would think that I will always, as long as I live, be connected in some way. It might not be, I will ultimately retire from the Magic. I don't think I'll go anywhere else, but I will not stop living the life I live, connected to my community, the relationships I have, and hopefully turn what I can, because I do not underestimate how extraordinary it is to be part of the magic.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that you can make the magic in your own life and just do and be who you want to be.
This is a wonderful way. Within the last 30 seconds, let's talk about the game changer conversations that we have set up for next week. Shelley has put together a phenomenal panel. Our Congresswoman will be on it. Several women who have key positions within athletic organizations around the country. And we're welcoming everyone to join us on the 30th and the 31st for just conversations about hitting that ceiling. No, we can push through it. What are some of the things that we're doing for succession plans? What are you doing to make sure that Linda's not forgotten your succession plan.
Well, Shelley absolutely is part of that. Shelley is doing an extraordinary job
She
of
is.
not just bringing it to the next level. And that's why I said we have to step aside and allow other thought process to come. So in my world, in the succession plan at the Magic, not only is Shelley doing that, but the coach himself with the entire social justice piece, our players, and our task force. We have a social justice task force and a new chief diversity officer in Isu Maat. And so these are part of the succession plan to ensure that it continues to move and not just, move this way, but really go to where it should go.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Linda. Thank you for saying yes to be on our Facebook Live show. One Take Live is something that I thought about when the pandemic first started. It's not something that I get paid to do. It's just something that keeps me connected. And the viewers seem to love it. They write in their questions. They say they like it or they want to see somebody else. So I appreciate you for being on. You, like I said, one of my sheroes, and I thank you so much.
It goes back right at you, Monica May. I love you, darling. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming up at 7 o'clock this evening, I'm going to hop on over to Zoom, Linda, like I was letting you know before, on the platform for Let's Beehive on their Facebook page. They're hosting about an hour-long panel on Thy Queendom Come, and we're talking about HIV awareness for women and girls with Dr. Andrea Dunn. And she has put together a phenomenal panel. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you care to, hop over there with me and join me at 7. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Linda Landman Gonzalez. Don't forget next week, the 30th and 31st, to join us on the Magic site for some game-changing points that we're going to have with women making moves around the country. Linda, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been an honor. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for watching another edition of One Take Live. I'm Monica May.